12:30 a.m. This grainy security camera outside a West Virginia apartment building captured the last few minutes Skylar Neese was ever seen alive. A car pulls up at 12:35. Skylar climbs out of her bedroom window and gets into the back seat. The car belongs to one of her best friends. In the front seat are the two people she trusted most in the world. 6 months later, investigators would learn that by the time this car pulled away, Skylar Neese already had less than an hour left to live, and the two girls driving her were the ones who were going to kill her. This is a Skylar Neese case, and the most disturbing part isn't the murder itself, it's everything that happened in the 6 months after it. Part 1. The Mystery. Skylar Neese was 16 years old, living in Star City, West Virginia, with her parents, Dave and Mary. On the night of July 5th into July 6, 2012, she snuck out of her bedroom window to meet up with her two best friends, Shelia Eddy and Rachel Schoaf. She never came home. The next morning, her father found her window screen removed and a hidden bench she used to climb in and out undetected. Her bed was empty. Her parents called police. Within hours, this had become a missing person case, and the two people helping search for her the hardest were Shelia and Rachel. Here's where it gets strange. When investigators asked Shelia and Rachel what happened that night, their story was simple. The three of them had driven around, smoked marijuana, and the girls dropped Skylar off near her apartment so she could sneak back inside without waking her parents. For weeks, that story held. Skylar had snuck out before. Investigators initially treated this as a runaway case, but the story was about to fall apart because of a single camera nobody had thought to check yet. Part 2. Evidence Beat, the surveillance footage. Weeks into the investigation, police pulled surveillance footage from the camera outside Skylar's apartment building. At 12:30 in the morning, the footage shows a car pulling up outside the building and idling at the curb. 5 minutes later, the footage shows Skylar Neese climbing out through her bedroom window. She walks to the car. She gets into the back seat. The car pulls away into the dark, and that's the last moment Skylar Neese was ever seen alive. When investigators ran the plate, the car belonged to Shelia Eddy. Here's the problem. Shelia and Rachel had told police they picked Skylar up around 11 p.m. and dropped her back off before midnight. The surveillance camera told a different story. Skylar wasn't dropped off before midnight. She was picked up at 12:30 a.m., and she never came back. It was the first piece of hard evidence that proved the girls had lied. It would not be the last. Part 2B. Evidence Beat, the Would You Rather video. While digging through Skylar's old phone and social media, investigators found something that stopped them cold. A video recorded before Skylar disappeared. The three girls, Skylar, Shelia, and Rachel, playing a game of Would You Rather. In the video, Shelia starts asking Skylar a series of questions. Would you rather die by being shot or stabbed? Would you rather die quickly or slowly? At the time, it looked like nothing, just teenagers being morbid, the way teenagers sometimes are. In hindsight, investigators believe it wasn't a game at all. They believe Shelia was quietly working out exactly how she was going to kill her best friend and asking Skylar to help her decide. Part 3. Evidence Beat, the Twitter's Trail. While search teams combed the area for Skylar, Shelia Eddy was posting on Twitter like nothing had happened. This is a real tweet posted by Shelia Eddy, while Skylar's family still believed there was a chance she was alive. But the tweet that would later define this entire case came months after that, after Rachel Schoaf had already confessed, after Skylar's remains had already been found. We really did go on 3. To understand why that sentence is so chilling, you need to know what Rachel had already told investigators, that the plan the entire time was to count to 3 and then start stabbing. Shelia posted that tweet publicly, knowing people were watching her, knowing people suspected her. She posted it anyway. That same week, Shelia publicly mourned the friend she had murdered, while privately, investigators were already closing in. Part 4. Evidence Beat, the Breakdown in the Wire. By December of 2012, 6 months into the investigation, Rachel Shove was unraveling. On December 28th, she had a complete breakdown. Her mother called 911. She was taken to a psychiatric hospital where she stayed for 5 days. When she was released, she didn't go home. She asked to be taken straight to a lawyer. On January 3, 2013, Rachel Shove confessed. She told investigators that she and Sheila had planned the murder together while sitting in science class, that they'd lured Skylar out under the pretense of a normal night out, that they'd driven her across the Pennsylvania state line and stabbed her to death after counting to 3. Investigators asked her why. "We just don't like her," she said. That same day, investigators had Rachel put on a wire and call Sheila directly, hoping to capture a confession on tape. It didn't work. Sheila stayed composed, confident that nothing could ever be proven. In the days right after that failed wire call, Sheila kept posting on social media about how much she missed her best friend, the same friend she knew. By then, investigators were closing in on her for killing. Investigators didn't need the wire though. They already had something stronger. Rachel's confession and blood matching Skylar's DNA inside Sheila's car. On January 16, 2013, Rachel led police directly to the site in the Pennsylvania woods. Skylar's remains were recovered roughly 20 miles from her home. Part 5. What actually happened that night. According to Rachel's confession, the plan had been building for weeks. She and Sheila had decided they wanted Skylar gone, not through a fight, not through simply drifting apart, but permanently. They were afraid of what she might say about them. In the trunk of Sheila's car, they'd hidden cleaning supplies, rags, bleach, wet wipes, along with a shovel and a change of clothes for afterward. They wrapped kitchen knives in towels and kept them close. At 12:30 that morning, they pulled up outside Skylar's apartment, exactly like they had 100 times before. She climbed into the back seat. They told her they were just going for a drive to get high. She believed them. Why wouldn't she? These were her best friends. They drove nearly 20 miles, crossing the state line into a remote wooded area near Brave, Pennsylvania, a spot the 3 of them had been to before. Once they were in the woods, Sheila and Rachel claimed they'd forgotten a lighter. Skylar offered to go back to the car and grab it herself. That was the moment they'd been waiting for. The plan was simple. Count to 3, then start stabbing. Medical examiners later found Skylar had been stabbed more than 50 times. The girls themselves estimated, in their own statements, somewhere closer to 10. At some point during the attack, Skylar fought back, hard enough that she managed to wrench the knife out of Rachel's hand and stab her in the leg, just above the ankle. Witnesses to the confession say that as she was dying, she asked her 2 best friends one final question. Why? Neither of them answered her. Unable to dig a proper grave in the rocky ground, they covered her body with rocks, dirt, and branches, changed their clothes, cleaned up using what they had packed, and drove home. Part 6. The courtroom. Because Rachel cooperated and led police to the body, prosecutors offered her a deal. On May 1, 2013, she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. In court, she turned to Skylar's parents and apologized. She was sentenced to 30 years, eligible for parole after 10. Sheila Eddy made a different choice. She pleaded guilty to first-degree murder on January 24, 2014. Unlike Rachel, she offered no apology. Skylar's father, Dave Neese, said it plainly to ABC News. "You don't apologize for murdering somebody in cold blood when you meant to do it." Sheila was sentenced to life in prison, eligible for parole after 15 years. In May of 2023, at a parole hearing, Rachel Shove offered another layer to the motive that had never been public before. She said she and Sheila had secretly been in a romantic relationship and that they feared it would jeopardize that relationship if Skylar found out and exposed them. She told the board that once people around them started sensing something was different, the tension between the 3 of them turned hostile. In her words, as teenagers, neither of them knew how to handle the conflict, and they just wanted it to stop. Whether that was the real motive or one piece of a much colder calculation is something only the 2 of them will ever truly know. Part 7. Skylar's Law and Where They Are Now. At the time Skylar disappeared, West Virginia required a 48-hour waiting period before a teenager could be officially classified as missing, and the state's Amber Alert system only applied to confirmed abductions. Skylar's parents spent the next year pushing lawmakers to change that. In 2013, the legislature passed Skylar's Law unanimously, allowing alerts to be issued immediately when a child may be in danger, without needing to first prove an abduction. Both Sheila, Eddie, and Rachel Shove remain incarcerated at the Lakin Correctional Center in West Virginia. Rachel was denied parole in 2023 and 2024. She was eligible again in June 2025, but waived that hearing. Her next opportunity comes in June 2026. Sheila isn't eligible for parole until 2028. At one of the parole hearings, Dave Neese stood up and said something that has stayed with almost everyone who's followed this case since. An accident is when you bump into someone. An accident is when you step on someone's shoe. This was not an accident. Because of the malicious monster, my child will never get a limo ride to her prom. Instead, she got a ride in a coroner's vehicle. Dave Neese has said he and his wife intend to be at every parole hearing for as long as it takes to make sure neither woman is released early. What makes the Skylar Neese case so disturbing isn't a hidden twist or an unsolved mystery. It's the opposite. The evidence, the surveillance footage, the would you rather video, the tweets, the confession, tells you almost exactly what happened in their own words and on their own cameras. Two people Skylar trusted completely decided they didn't want to be her friend anymore. And instead of just walking away, they planned her murder for weeks, carried it out under a minute, and then spent 6 months pretending to grieve her in public. If this case affected you the way it affected me, let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, welcome. This is the kind of story we tell. Real evidence, real consequences, no easy answers. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.